When you have a fighting game with a character roster as deep as that's included in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, you'd expect there to be many characters that were considered to be in the game, but didn't end up making the cut. This happens with many games in the fighting genre, and it's definitely not limited to Super Smash Bros. Take any fighting game that you could think of, and there have been many plans for those games that didn't end up coming to fruition. But one commonality shared with the 10 characters that I'm going to be talking about in this video is that they would all work very well in Super Smash Bros. In my opinion. Today I'll be going over 10 characters who were reportedly rejected to be included in the Super Smash Bros. Roster over the years, and why I believe that they should be included in Smash Ultimate or a Smash Bros. Game in the future. Whether the characters that I talk about in this video end up being included in the Fighter Pass or not is something that only time will tell. But one thing that I really believe in is that Smash Bros. Would be made a better game if any of these characters called it a home. With that being said, remember to subscribe if you're new to the channel, and let's get started. The first character, or characters I should say, that I'll be talking about in this video are Toon Zelda / Tetra. I'm sure that many of you that are watching this video are familiar with the concept at least of the Forbidden 7. These are 7 characters who have data in Super Smash Bros. Brawl pertaining to them but weren't actually included in the game. I'm going to be talking about a couple of those characters in this video because some of them have actually ended up being included in Smash Bros. After this data from Brawl. But a Toon Zelda and what the source code says, Toon Sheik, which we would assume to be Tetra, have obviously been not included in Super Smash Bros. Now some of you are probably a little bit newer to the Super Smash Bros. Series, maybe wondering why they would be combined into one character like this. This is because before Super Smash Bros. 4, Zelda and Sheik were the same character. You could change between them. But once they got to Smash 4, they decided to make them separate characters, and I think it was a nice idea to allow you to differentiate between them a little more. But I think that reintroducing this concept for the people who miss it and enjoyed playing Zelda and Sheik together would be a nice idea. They would also have some differences from Zelda and Sheik respectively. Just look at how Toon Link has many differences from Link, but also many similarities. So this would allow some people who like to play as either Zelda or Sheik to get another character in the game that they're fairly similar to while being pretty different. And the people who liked to play Zelda and Sheik together in previous Super Smash Bros. Games can now experience a character that's fairly similar to that. Getting more representation from Wind Waker would also be very nice to see because Tetra is a very prominent character from there. Moving on to what is modernly a very highly requested character to be included in Super Smash Bros. Banjo and Kazooie. Reportedly being planned to be in Super Smash Bros. Melee, but not ending up being included in the game obviously, and this is because of the licensing issues at the time where Rare owned the rights to Banjo and Kazooie, and while initially Banjo was on the N64, Rare was bought by Microsoft, meaning that Nintendo does not have the rights to the character. Now we see in modern times Nintendo and Microsoft getting a little bit closer together, with their Better Together slogan being thrown around a lot, and all of the features that they're collaborating on. It's very interesting to see this happen in the modern age. We just got out of a time with lots of the debates about console wars and all this, and then you see two companies just working together. So maybe for the future, Banjo and Kazooie could have a possibility of being included in Smash Bros. But one thing's for certain is that it would definitely be a great character to be included. Not only is Banjo a highly requested character from hardcore Nintendo fans, and longtime fans would just love to see a character from the N64 days included in the game, but there are also many interesting moveset possibilities that Banjo and Kazooie could use as well. I think it would be nice to see them go up against Duck Hunt. It could just be one of those interesting things that they included in the trailers, one of those matchups that people would have liked to see. Let's move on to a character who I think I talk about a little bit too much. I talked about him in the previous Smash Bros. Video that I made, so I'll try to keep this pretty brief. Geno has been considered multiple times to be included in the Smash Bros. Roster. This has been confirmed by Sakurai. Apparently for Brawl and Smash 4, Geno was considered, but there were licensing issues surrounding the character, as is well known throughout the Nintendo community. Obviously Square has the rights to the character, but Geno was from a Mario game, Super Mario RPG, but it was developed by Square Enix. So there are some licensing issues around the character, and some workarounds would have to be done if Geno were to ever be included in Smash Bros. But Nintendo seems to be getting a little bit closer to Square. They included Cloud in Smash Bros. They included a Geno outfit into Smash Bros. 4 as well. Not to mention that in the September Nintendo Direct, it was revealed that a bunch of Final Fantasy games would be coming to the Switch. So you never know, things could be getting a lot better in this relationship, and we could eventually see Geno being implemented in Smash Bros. But just the incredible amount of unique moveset possibilities from Mario RPG, and the fact that he is such a popular character character with hardcore Nintendo fans makes him a great candidate for Smash Bros. Let's move back over to the Forbidden 7 as I was talking about before, and two Pokemon that I think would definitely catch some fans off guard, but it would make sense. Plusle and Minun. Now, we already have two tiny electric type Pokemon in the playable roster of Super Smash Bros. Once they brought Pichu back from Melee, but this concept would work more similarly to Ice Climbers, as evidenced by the data found within Super Smash Bros. Brawl's files. They're pretty popular Pokemon within the third generation in which they debuted, as they helped to promote the double battle system that was introduced in that generation for the first time. Their prominence was brought back to light a little bit more with the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire remakes that released in late 2014. There's some rumors circulating throughout the Pokemon community that Pokemon Plus and Minus could be the titles for the next Pokemon games. Those rumors have lasted for a long time now, though. You never know if that'll end up actually being a thing, but if that were to end up happening, it would make so much sense for Plusle and Minun to be included in Smash Bros. It'd just be some great promotion crossover there. But I think this concept would be very interesting to see in terms of a moveset, and that's why I think that even though Plusle and Minun were rejected, and some people probably wouldn't be too enthusiastic about their inclusion, I think it would be a good idea. Let's move on to the first character, and the only one in this video that I'll be talking about that was reportedly planned to be in Smash Ultimate according to Sakurai himself, but another character was chosen instead, and this character was Decidueye. The famous grass ghost type Alolan starter Pokemon was thought to be one of the two likely possibilities to be the Pokemon representative in Smash Ultimate. Normally a starter Pokemon makes sense. They're normally the most famous ones out of the bunch. And before Pokemon Trainer was confirmed to be in Smash Ultimate, we had Charizard, a fire starter, Greninja, a water starter, and then to complete the trifecta, you could have had Decidueye in there as the grass starter. Fighting Incineroar was chosen instead, and it kind of makes sense, you know, he's a wrestling-themed character being put in a fighting game, but Decidueye has so many moveset possibilities like Spirit Shackle and all of the grass type moves that he uses. I think he would be a very interesting character to be included in the game. Moving on to a Tekken character, Heihachi was planned to be included in Smash 4 as a Bandai Namco representative. Sakurai seemed to have wanted this character in. Tekken is a pretty famous fighting game franchise, and a prominent character from that game would make sense to be included in Smash, but it was eventually decided upon to put PacMan into Smash Bros. As the Bandai Namco representative, and I wholeheartedly agree with that decision. However, Heihachi would still be a great addition. I know that specific fighting-themed characters aren't necessarily the thing that Sakurai goes out and looks for, but it can help in certain situations, like the inclusions of Little Mac and Incineroar like I just mentioned. I do believe that more fighting-themed characters in Smash Bros. Is always a good thing, and this one could have definitely helped out the roster a little bit, and still can if they wanted to include him as DLC. The next characters that I'd like to talk about are the Chorus Kids from Rhythm Heaven. This is a smaller Nintendo series, and I doubt that they'd want to include these characters as downloadable content for the game, considering that there probably wouldn't be too much attention on them in terms of people wanting to go and purchase them. But if they were to be included in the base roster, I thought that would be a pretty good idea. And according to the Gamatsu leak before Super Smash Bros. 4 came out, these guys were actually planned to be included in the game. The Gamatsu leak got almost every newcomer in the base Smash 4 roster perfectly predicted. It only had two characters incorrect, and one of them was Chrom, who was confirmed to be considered for Smash 4's roster and then was included in Ultimate. And the other character were the Chorusmen. So there's a large amount of evidence supporting that these guys were planned to be included, and they definitely have a unique moveset. Having three characters in one would definitely be pretty cool, and I think it would provide a lot more of a unique moveset than Karate Joe would, who is another character who has been kind of teased for Smash Ultimate, I guess. I don't know, in the King K. Rool trailer, everybody was making a big deal about his pose and saying that Karate Joe was going to be in. I was thinking that as well, but it doesn't seem like that's any closer to be happening. But getting some Rhythm Heaven representation in there would definitely be a good thing, could definitely help boost the popularity of the franchise. The next character is one that I talked about in my wish list before Smash Ultimate was even revealed. 4 characters who I'd like to be in the game. And this is a more obscure Nintendo character. He's from the mysterious Murazami Castle, and if you don't know what that game is, I definitely don't blame you. It's an old retro title, and Takamaru is the protagonist of that game. It was kind of like a hack and slash game before hack and slash was really a thing that we refer to games as nowadays. But Takamaru with his blade would be an interesting character to include in the roster of Smash Brothers, obviously being mainly a physical character. I see many people saying that he would be too similar to a sword fighter, and we already have enough sword fighters for Smash Brothers, but I think he could be more unique than that because of the quickness that he could use. And he'd probably do some different techniques with his blade that could differentiate him from the rest of the roster a little bit more. Now, while Smash Brothers games always seem to have this retro character representative within them, for some reason, Takamaru was stopped from consideration purely because of the lack of popularity. Supposedly considered for Smash 4, Sakurai said that because of the lack of popularity for the character, he decided not to include him. But I thought the purpose of retro characters was to reintroduce people to some of the classic icons from the past, or a more obscure character from the past, and let people know of some information pertaining to them. I don't know, I thought Takamaru would be a good idea. I'd be happy to see him included in Smash Bros. In the future. Probably have to be in the next iteration of the game though, because if they don't consider him a popular character, he's definitely not being put in as DLC, especially when they're marketing this DLC as the characters are all going to be must-haves. Next up, I'd like to talk about another retro character, and this is the Excitebiker, who was reportedly planned to be in Super Smash Bros. Melee. Planned might be a strong word for this, I guess considered could be a better term, considering that Sakurai made comments pertaining to this character, but kind of in a joking manner, so he was probably only thought of for a little bit to be included in the game. He might have only been considered in a joking matter and not seriously, which would have meant that he wasn't completely rejected, but I think considering that Nintendo likes to reference Excitebike a lot nowadays, like they even put the stage in Mario Kart, Nintendo recognizes this character and the legacy that it had, and I think that maybe they would want to put him in a Smash Bros. Game in the future as a retro character. It would definitely be interesting to see him on his bike and how he would work pertaining to that. Would he fight entirely on his bike, or would he have the ability to get off of the bike and pick it up like Wario does, for example? Would that make him too similar to Wario? I don't know. That's why you have to develop him in a unique way, and I think that because this is a retro series and you have a little bit more leeway with characters from that vein, you could do that with this guy. Excitebiker would definitely be a unique one to be included in Smash Bros., and that's why I think that he shouldn't have been rejected and should be included in Smash sometime in the future. The last character that I'm going to be talking about today is Dixie Kong. Dixie Kong is the final character from the Forbidden 7 who never ended up being included in Super Smash Bros. Now, Brawl introduced Diddy Kong to the Smash Bros. Roster, and with that, it was reportedly planned to have Diddy and Dixie work together as a character. But it was just decided to have Diddy be a solo character, and Dixie never ended up actually coming to the roster of the game. Now, after King K. Rool was revealed to be a character in Super Smash Bros., and it showed that Nintendo was really catering to fans with some of these guys, people started to wonder, hey, if they already put another Donkey Kong rep in there, do you think they'd put a fourth? Perhaps an echo character for Diddy Kong, being Dixie? There would obviously be some differences. They're not the same character. Perhaps Dixie's hair could be used in a different way, and you could possibly stretch it so that Dixie would be her completely own unique character. But the thought would be that it'd be simpler to include Dixie Kong as an echo fighter, and less resources would have to be used in order to develop her and put her in the game. But nevertheless, I think it would be great to get more Donkey Kong representation in Super Smash Bros. Tropical Freeze was an amazing game. They put it on the Switch, and I'm sure it's going to do well sales-wise there. I have no doubt that we're going to be seeing more Donkey Kong games in the future. Wouldn't you want to help promote them a little bit more through Smash? But that's going to be it for this one. Obviously, I couldn't get to every single character who was rejected in the history of Smash Bros., but it went over 10 today that I really liked, and I think have some potential to be included in the roster. Some are a little bit more of a stretch than others, obviously. Let me know some of your favorites in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this type of content, remember to subscribe and click the bell icon so that you don't miss any new videos coming your way very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.